No matter which way the political winds are blowing in Washington, D.C., I want you to know that Portland is going to continue to stay the course. We will continue to reduce carbon emissions. We will continue to address climate issues, and we will do these things while growing our economy, and even with the understanding and frankly the expectation that our community will continue to grow in terms of population. I believe that political leadership and leadership across the community is more in need today than it has ever been in the past. The leadership in Washington, D.C. wants to take us backwards. They want to take us to pre-1990 policies in terms of addressing carbon emissions and the climate. We're not going to do that. We're moving forward into the future, and we're going to be thoughtful and aggressive and data-based in terms of the policies that we're going to employ to address these issues. Most of the work that we do here in the city of Portland and at Multnomah County, Chair Kafoury is going to speak in a moment, is in the framework of our Multnomah County City of Portland Climate Action Plan. It was recently described by C40 as being the strongest climate action plan in the world. That's something that I think all of us can be proud of. And as one of the world's most inspiring and leading cities when it comes to climate action, we're here today to renew that commitment. And in fact, as I mentioned to a number of people at a community gathering on this issue of climate change recently, we're not only committed to that agenda, we're committed to moving farther, and we're committing to moving faster. The years ahead, as I say, I think are going to be pivotal in terms of leadership, and there's a lot of work. We've also got a lot of success that we can fall back on. Very soon, like in the next several days, we will be releasing our most recent Climate Action Plan Progress Report. And I can tell you there'll be a lot in that report for the people in this community to be justifiably proud of. Having previewed it, I can tell you just a couple of things. As of 2014, local carbon emissions were about 21% below their 1990 levels. 20% below. I get asked a lot, okay, well, that's gross terms. What about on a per capita basis? On a per capita basis, on a per person basis, the results are actually much better than that, about 40% below our 1990 levels. And this is the result not just of government, but a sustained community-wide effort. Individuals, private sector companies, nonprofit organizations, the academic sector, all have played a key role in helping to achieve these impressive results. That being said, we can't just rest on our laurels or past successes. We've got a tremendous amount of work to do ahead of us. Portland and Multnomah County set aggressive goals for carbon reductions. Our goal is to reduce our emissions 80% below 1990 levels by the year 2050 and 40% below by the year 2030. We're up to the task. And as I alluded to a moment ago, we're going to go much farther. In tandem with organizations and jurisdictions across the city and county, today we're releasing our new climate agenda, informed by nearly a year of community conversations and stakeholder input. I'm going to give you just some of the highlights. I think everybody here had access to one of these. If you want to read through it or follow along, these are the specific bullet points. Obviously, the full report is much longer than a two-page handout, but this sort of gives you the top line. First and foremost, we're establishing a goal to meet all of Multnomah County and Portland's energy-wide needs with 100% renewable energy by the year 2050, and all electricity and renewable sources by the year 2035. We'll also be working with the utilities in our region to accelerate this transition to a zero carbon electricity, even while ending the use of fossil fuels. And we'll also work to minimize the risk for communities that are the most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, like heat waves and flooding, with a particular focus on communities of color and lower income communities. I've joined with other local leaders to resist federal policy changes that have the potential to increase carbon emissions. And we'll be resisting other policy changes that fly in the face of our core values. As has been noted by many in recent months, politics has really swung to the local level. And at the local level, this is where we're going to be providing the innovation, the creativity, and the leadership to move forward on these climate action goals. And I believe it's also our responsibility, is incumbent upon us to resist those changes that are taking place at the federal level that put in jeopardy the work that we have already accomplished here at the local level. Newly confirmed, EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt and the President may make the misguided decision to try and destroy the Clean Power Plan. We'll continue to show the rest of the country that clean energy, sustainable development, and walkable communities mean local action can be a smarter choice than federal inaction. And we'll be urging our colleagues at the state of Oregon to strengthen their energy code to be more consistent with energy codes in the states of Washington and California. And we'll also lead by example, the city of Portland, through our own policy and programs. We'll lead with an EV first purchasing policy. We'll add at least 5 new renewable energy projects across the city of Portland in the near term. We'll continue to move forward with the Green Loop strategy. And we'll launch a community solar initiative that'll make it possible for all residents to access the benefits of renewable energy, especially for low-income residents. And in this climate agenda, as you read through it, you're going to see lots of other actions in the categories of improving recycling, creating affordable, healthy, and connected communities, building resilience to the coming impacts of climate change, partnering with public institutions, in addition to partnering with our friends in the utilities, and supporting my fellow colleagues on the Portland City Commission, like Commissioner Eudaly, who's here today, in their own bureau's actions to carry out the essential elements of the Climate Action Plan through the city budget and also in partnering with our friends at Multnomah County. We have a vision for the future, and we have a determination to follow that vision. I understand that the goals espoused in this climate action program, they are significant goals. And they're not the kinds of things where we can simply put it out there and just hope that with time we accomplish these goals. Each and every one of them requires significant choices and significant leadership, and in some cases, significant budgeting to get the job done. But we have all come up here today to tell you that that is a commitment we are prepared and willing to make. The city of Portland obviously cannot make this commitment independently of what's going on in the rest of the region, and that's why we have strong partners to help us achieve these goals. One of our most important partners is, of course, Multnomah County, and we have a couple of our county colleagues here today to help discuss their role in all of this. First and foremost on our list today is Multnomah County Chair Chair Kafoury.
Thank you, Mayor Wheeler, and thank you to everyone for coming today. I especially want to thank the Deltas for hosting us in this beautiful building. And thank you for joining us on what I am calling a pledge to our children's future. This gathering today is a reality check. The people calling the plays for the federal government right now are pulling from an old playbook. They are planting uncertainty where, in fact, concrete facts exist. To deny science and the overwhelming evidence that climate change is real is irresponsible. And to refuse to do anything about climate change when we have all of this evidence is a dereliction of duty. So here we are today, Multnomah County, the city of Portland, and most importantly, you, our community members, to say enough. We can no longer deny, and we can no longer delay. We must take a stand for the health of our community, and we must act now for our children's future. We can and we must lead. Here in Multnomah County, we are already feeling the impacts of climate change. 2015 was the warmest year on record in this state. This past winter was the wettest winter on record, and February was the wettest February on record. At Multnomah County, we've seen our community members in low-quality housing suffer. Families are dealing with black mold, children with asthma are struggling to breathe, and our elders, who often live alone, are endangered by the heat. Now, these community members can't just move or buy an air conditioner or leave town. They are forced to deal with the consequences of climate change on their own. A future, but we know we can do better, and we must. We need a future with a stable climate, a future powered by clean, renewable energy, and a future where the benefits of clean energy lead to equitable economic gains for our communities of color. We are pushing for bold action because our futures depend on cities and counties blazing a trail for others to follow. But if there's any doubt that a few smart, determined people can tackle climate change, I would only say, look around you. When the Delta Sigma Theta sorority started its Portland chapter in 1945, members had to meet at each other's homes because as black women, they were not allowed in the downtown hotels. 40 years later, June Runnels-Key and Chris Poole Jones led an effort not just to create a permanent meeting place, but to turn an old gas station into the greenest building in town. A community space that is powered by the sun. They have shown us that yesterday's infrastructure can be turned into tomorrow's innovation. We need to be like Ms. Key and Ms. Poole Jones and all of the Deltas and make the vision of an all renewable community a reality. And I have no doubt that we can do this. But our challenge now is to make sure that in the process of getting there, we continue to follow the lead of communities of color and work together to make green energy a wealth-building opportunity for those who have been left behind in this economy. We must ensure that the transition to a renewable energy future is a just transition. 100% renewables is not just a goal. It's an imperative. We must get there, and we can only get there together. This is our pledge to our children's future. Thank you. Commissioner, former Representative Jessica Peterson.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. I will also manage with the logistics with my papers. Thank you, Chair Kafoury and Mayor Wheeler, for your continued leadership on such an important issue. I truly appreciate the commitment and the vision you've demonstrated to ensure that our region is reducing carbon emissions to zero and leading the way to a clean energy future. Sadly, on the national level, we have not had a lot of reasons for optimism lately, especially concerning climate. When the head of the EPA denies science, our whole country suffers. When this administration threatens to defund the work of the EPA, especially the environmental justice and civil rights work of the agency, we enter a more precarious position. When those charged with protecting our climate deny that human emissions drive climate change, it's not hyperbole to say that the fate of our world hangs in the balance. In order to protect our environment and our communities from the threats posed by the new administration, local and state jurisdictions must take steps forward to make up the difference when writing environmental regulation and environmental policy. Now more than ever, Oregon needs to lead the way when it comes to creating a clean energy future. Fortunately, we know that is possible because leading the way is the Oregon way. As a state legislator in 2015, I fought to preserve the Clean Fuels Program, which will reduce the carbon footprint from our transportation system, help foster alternative fuel usage, and reduce air pollution. Electric vehicles are a core component of ensuring that the Clean Fuels Program and the investments that we're making in alternatives to carbon-emitting fuels are successful. And just during last year's legislative session, I worked with environmental advocates, public health groups, and companies like PGE and Pacific Power to pass a clean energy bill which will phase out the use of coal generated by electricity and double down on our state's commitment to clean energy. Combined with Oregon's existing hydroelectric base, that means that the state will be on track for an electricity system that's 70 to 90% carbon-free by 2040. The Pioneer legislation will make Oregon's energy among the cleanest in the country. But we can't stop there. We have to do more, and at the local level, we can lead this way. The agenda before us today puts us in a position to do just that. Making sure all of our electricity comes from renewable sources by 2035, and that all of our remaining energy sources, including transportation, come from renewable sources by 2050 are ambitious but achievable goals. Other provisions, such as the clean diesel contracting to reduce black carbon, strengthening energy and building codes, and leading by example when it comes to city and county construction and solar projects and fleet upgrades, send a strong message about our commitment to clean energy. By making smart investments now, we will help protect our community from the impacts of climate change, reduce our emissions, save money, and create economic opportunity. These are all huge positives for our county. We must take these steps, but we also must make sure that we do it in the right way. While the costs for clean energy policies and technologies have generally come in far below initial estimates, we must make sure that marginalized communities and low-income individuals not only aren't harmed by these policies and programs, but in fact benefit from them. Because we know that people of color and low-income communities are more at risk from the impacts of climate change and have traditionally lacked a seat at the table when similar decisions about environmental policy have been made. We are changing the way that things are done so that everyone shares in the benefits of this clean energy future equally. That is the other way we will lead. We need Multnomah County and Portland to be examples to the rest of the country of what we can do when we prioritize health and people first. I know that we can do that, and I'm excited about our community's commitment to that. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, thanks for being here today. Climate change poses enormous challenges, not just for Portland, but for the entire planet. The scientific consensus has been clear for decades. We need to keep fossil fuels in the ground, say no to new fossil fuel infrastructure, which we have, I'm very happy to report, and change course toward clean, safe, renewable energy. Nearly every sector of society, except those industries whose financial interests are threatened, knows that we must change course. Each minute we delay our exodus from the fossil fuel economy, we burden young people and future generations with ever-mounting risks and increasing likelihood of total catastrophe. Despite the deniers, these urgent issues are no longer up for debate. To paraphrase Bill McKibben, physics is a terrible negotiator, and you can't argue with nature. These conversations and solutions are long overdue, and I'm really thrilled to get to support my mayor and my chair and my colleagues as we move forward. Because of a change in leadership at the national level that so far has meant climate denial and the singular promotion of the interests of the fossil fuel industry, it is even more imperative that local governments and their residents take bold actions to say no to fossil fuels and yes to a clean energy future. Additionally, it is clear to me that we must pair our climate and energy strategies with our existing goals of providing stable and affordable housing, creating an equitable transportation system, disaster preparedness. I'm really excited to go through the NETS training this month, everyone. Neighborhood Emergency Team. You should all sign up, although there is a 1,400 person waiting list. That's one of the perks of being commissioner. supporting local businesses, and enhancing constructive public involvement in and participation with government. These issues are interrelated and must be treated as such. In addition, our necessarily ambitious goals will allow us to have the important conversations with adjacent jurisdictions, regional governments, utilities, businesses, labor organizations, universities, neighborhoods, and community groups about how we can live in line with our values and create a city that works for everyone. These conversations may not always be easy, but we can't avoid them any longer. Speaking of values, as we move toward meeting our goals, it must be stated that a renewable energy transition is an enormous opportunity to redress historical inequities in our communities. In other words, our renewable energy transition must be just. This means prioritizing the needs of people of color, low-income residents, and laborers while fighting for the resources to retrain our workforce, prioritizing women and minority-owned contractors, and reducing the cost of living for burdened residents. By declaring ambitious climate and energy goals, the City of Portland and Multnomah County can set a standard for municipalities across the country. And I believe, as the Mayor noted, we are already doing that. I'm very excited for what is to come and look forward to working with the community to say goodbye to fossil fuels and hello to a truly clean energy future. Thank you.
Jeremy Clark, you may know his face. His YouTube video, I think, got 2 million hits. Is that possible? As of today. And so after today, it'll probably be maxing out at 3 million plus. But his impassioned testimony has been very moving, and he will be, the recipient of our future as a youth. So thank you for being here today. Afterward, there are lots of people from the city and the county and PDC and so forth, and be happy to just talk with you and answer questions. We're not going to do Q&A here. We'll let you get up and stretch your legs. So thank you so much for being here.
So, Mayor Wheeler, Chair Kafoury, thank you very much for inviting me today. My name is Jeremy Clark. I'm in 7th grade, and I'm a proud native Portlander. So much what I love about Portland has to do with the outdoors. I am a cross-country runner, and I love to run down the Reed College Strip and run down through that tunnel of trees. I've spent a lot of summer days going down to U-Pick farms and picking blueberries. And I learned how to ski on Mount Hood, and I love going backpacking there in the summer. Climate change will affect every part of the world in diverse and irreversible ways. I'm afraid that in my lifetime, the things that I love about Portland will be gone. Not only that, but we'll see an increase in coral bleaching, crop failure, mosquito-borne diseases, hurricanes, droughts, floods, a lack of ice in Antarctica and Greenland, wildfires, ocean acidification, and animal extinction. This sounds like a future that nobody should have to live in, which is why my friend Charlie Abrams and I have been fighting for climate justice since the 4th grade. We've given speeches, blogged, lobbied, testified, called decision makers, protested, and much more. We've done everything in our power to do our part, and now it's your turn. The adults, many of the adults in this room, the leaders of Portland and Multnomah County, have great power. But with that great power comes a great responsibility. You have the responsibility to keep my future bright. It gives me a lot of hope that the people in this room are promising to drastically reduce carbon dioxide emissions, because doing so is one of the most important things that you can do for my generation's future. So if you keep the promises you make today, in 20 or 30 years, you can say to your children and your grandchildren, together we kept your future bright.